다 삼바 장주 쳐도 특게때 semper shows 다 단다 되기 만들
Once more, please give rise to bodhicitta. Listen to the teaching with bodhicitta. So we continue with where we left off in the text. So we're currently looking at going through an explanation of each of the 37 points of the 37 mandala offerings. 37-point mandala offering. So we've been through the continents and so on now, the 7 precious attributes. We're on page 224. So first of these 7 is the precious wheel. So we're going to read quite quickly through these. If we have time later on, then I can return to these and talk about them in more detail. The precious wheel is composed spontaneously rather than fashioned of the finest of celestial materials. Then we have the precious jewel, which is an 8-sided lapis lazuli. So actually the stone Binduriya, which is translated here as lapis lazuli, is green. So Medicine Buddha says that Medicine Buddha is the color of Binduriya, the stone Binduriya, which is a green stone actually. But maybe there of course there can be different colors, different colored forms of the same deity. After all, all appearances are merely illusions. Nothing is real, concrete. So all appearances are the display, the manifestation of the natural state of awareness, the radiance of the intrinsic nature. This is the quality, the nature of dharmata to manifest in all manner of ways. So it seems even if you have a stone like Binduriya or lapis lazuli that's usually green in color, it seems there are types of Binduriya or lapis lazuli that are also blue, like gold even. I used to think that gold was just always gold, always yellow in color, but it seems there's also white gold and black gold and so on. So there's no end to the multiplicity and variation of phenomena. The precious jewel is an 8-sided lapis lazuli, the size of a tall person's thigh. So a common lapis lazuli, like an ordinary lapis lazuli stone, would not be so radiant, not illuminate the whole area around it for a whole league. But this precious jewel is naturally luminous, naturally radiant. It lights up the whole area around it. It's a story about one of the kings. He was called King Shakra. He thought he was, the richest of the rich. And then one day he was invited to dinner at someone's house. And when he got to the house of the host, he saw a mansion and filled with wealth and jewels, all self-radiating, translucent and glowing. This was wealth beyond his dreams, wealth he'd never seen or heard about before. This man who had invited him as guest for a meal had so much more wealth than the king himself. That wealth had come from his merit. So there are jewels like this, it seems, jewels that naturally glow. Like in our experience, we have electrical lights, right? If we need electricity, we need to flick the switch, and only then do we get light. But it seems there are some jewels, some places that through the people's merit, these jewels are so radiant and iridescent that just like electric lights, they can illuminate large areas. Anyway, there are lots of stories about such jewels in the Vinaya and so on. Stories of the householder Nordak, householder Luk, and others told in the Vinaya, which describe the wealth that they have, the wealth these people had, which all stemmed from their own merit, extraordinary wealth. So, a lot of you who've joined in the last few days, after receiving the entire transmission for the Kangyur, the collected words of the Buddha, those of you who got to receive that transmission are so fortunate. You have so much merit. The benefits of hearing the Kangyur, receiving the transmission for that, you should really rejoice in your merit and think, it's a really meaningful, worthwhile thing I've done. And listening to the transmission of the whole Kangyur. There are inconceivable benefits, inconceivable merit. Those of you who received that Kangyur transmission from Sangye Nyingpa Rinpoche that finished recently, it seemed was a lot of hard work for the Lama and a lot of merit and benefit for the recipients. So all of these stories I'm mentioning and more, so much more, are found in the Kangyur, in the sutras, in the Vinaya. So we might not see these things, or might not have seen such things like iridescent jewels that produce light, more light than electrical light. You might think, well, this is just myth and fable, but it seems that actually in other places, other times, there are such things, there have been such things. Likewise, it says here, as well as these three particular properties that the precious jewel has, it also possesses other virtues, among them the capacity to produce water with the 8 perfect qualities when one's thirsty, and so on. And the power to prevent anyone within a distance of 100 leagues from falling ill or dying prematurely. So a league here is a specific measure. From my side, I'm not sure what the equivalent would be in sort of modern terms we're familiar with, but this is a very, in any case, this is a very large measure, like a very vast distance, 1 league. And you might think, well, could this really be true? That, that for a league in all directions around this jewel, untimely illness and death doesn't occur and so on, like the jewel has that far-reaching an influence? Well, yeah, that is actually possible. Like, think of the story I just told in the previous session about the king ever giving when he was exiled to the forest by the power of his loving kindness. Then animals and beings in all directions were pacified just by the force of his loving kindness. So such qualities, their influence permeates their surrounding area. This is the power of substance. In the case of the jewel, this is the power of substance. In the case of the samadhi of the king, his loving kindness, that is in the case of the king ever giving's love and the influence that had on the surrounding area. That's the power of samadhi. So we talk in the tantric teachings, we talk about the power of mantras, substance, samadhi, and so on. And we can see these powers in instances like this. The story of the king ever giving, accounts of precious jewels, and so on. And actually, in this vein, we can think about the benefit and blessings, the power and benefit of people staying on retreat. Like in the past, there's a story how Sakya Pandita was walking through a valley and he heard the Vajrakalaya mantra resounding from the river, and he knew through that in the surrounding area there must be a Vajrakalaya practitioner, an accomplished practitioner, because the influence of their Vajrakalaya accomplishment had touched even the river. So these days you get people who say things like, oh, people staying in retreat, what are they doing? They're not helping anyone, they're wasting their time. It's the people doing house pujas, making prayers for, going to people's houses, doing prayers and rituals. They're, really, they're the ones helping the community. This is completely wrong, because those staying in retreat, their practice is blessing the area, blessing everyone in the area. The power of their practice is spreading, beaming out into the entire surrounding area. There's inconceivable benefit to practice. So in Tibet, there is still to this day the long-standing tradition of supporting practitioners in retreat and supporting pilgrims as well, without any questions asked. People have great respect and reverence for those staying on retreat. They will do whatever they can to support them by offering provisions and assistance. And this must be the influence of great masters like Jigme Lingpa, Longchenpa, and so on, who have blessed the land of Tibet and the people, and bless them so that they have this respect and reverence for practice and practitioners. And it's like this up to this day. So this is all, mention these things in the light of, or in connection with, the power of samadhi, right? And as I said, we talk about the power of substance, the power of samadhi, and the power of mantra. So we've talked about substance and samadhi. And there's a fourth power as well, so four powerful things: substance, samadhi, mantra, and so on. Scientists, when hearing this thing, they might think, well, this sounds a bit, a bit dubious. But think about how all of the inventions of science and so on have been made, like airplanes and so on, through the power of substance, right? Exploiting the power of substance. So long before modern science, Buddha identified the potential power of material substance. Thousands of years earlier. That's because of his all-knowing wisdom. Now the precious queen. So best of all women, the precious queen. Is said to be so. For women, then the precious queen and the qualities she's said to have. These could be, as qualities to aspire to. In India, they talk about the precious queen, the supreme of women, with several dozen excellent qualities. So as to say, the precious queen has a royal birth, and in form and complexion, figure and appearance, she's beautiful to hold. So its form here, it refers to your figure, right? Complexion refers to your complexion, the complexion of your face. And she was joking about different people's different ideas about complexion. So having really very dark skin is not attractive. Having really white skin, like Westerners who look like plucked chickens, or like the Chinese who are ghostly white. These are extremes, right? Too white, too fair, too dark. The Tibetans have this kind of golden complexion. This is the perfect complexion. So just joking. Well, not just joking, but meaning everyone has a different idea, right, of what is attractive. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? What is a beautiful complexion? What's a beautiful face? Everyone has a different idea. I don't think big lips are just not appealing to me at all. But there are some people who think really plump big lips plump big lips are absolutely beautiful, like one of the most beautiful features in a face, So Nagarjuna said something to this effect about the subjectivity of perception. It's all one's personal perception, right? Like I just said, the kind of golden complexion of Tibetans is so attractive, but maybe for a lot of Westerners it's not attractive at all. Maybe they think, really fair, pale complexion is better, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm going all over the place here, like one of those funny movies with a distortion effect. Okay, anyway, let's try to get back to where we started. In form and complexion, the qualities of the precious queen, beautiful to behold. Her mouth carries the fragrance of pala, while every pore smells of sandalwood. This means she's naturally fragrant. We talk about the smell of discipline, how as a result of having pure discipline, your body will naturally smell fragrant. And to be honest, Kimbo Daza Rinpoche, you might think that I'm just being biased to my own teacher here, but Kimbo Daza Rinpoche, he always smelled so sweet, and he hardly ever washed his clothes for hard with grime, but he was grimy, but even the grime smelled sweet. So in our story, there was a Bhutanese Lama. Well, actually, I won't tell that story because it might offend the Bhutanese. Okay. Her skin is a delight to touch, as if she were clothed in the finest silk, warm when it's cold and cool when it is hot. So maybe this is like the pashmina that some salesman up in Limi told me about. And it sounded to me, from what he was describing, like the divine cloth we read about in the text. He said is this enormous shawl of the softest material possible that is so warm, and yet it's warm in the winter, yet cool in the summer. So light, feather light, and it can be folded up. And so small, it's folded up into a tiny little wad that fits into a matchbox. I thought, is he serious? Is there really something like this? Does this exist? Anyway, sounds like what's described here about the skin of the precious queen. She pursues virtue and is entirely free of negative actions. Being rid of the 32 weaknesses of womankind, she's full of excellent qualities. So many wonderful qualities. These wonderful qualities that fine women have. They are supportive. They have, as we could say, they're supportive of their spouses and their family. They serve their teachers. Conditions for they support their teachers so that their teachers and the gurus help the teachers and gurus live long. They foster harmony, have integrity, and so on and so forth. So many qualities we could mention. Now, the precious minister, he has 4 sets of virtues. He's learned, clear-minded, and intelligent. So capable ministers can do a lot of good with these if they have these qualities: learned, clear-minded, intelligent. The precious minister is endowed with the divine eye. They obey the king's command, carries them out. If we were to explain each of these qualities, then we'll be here forever. Since he knows the king's wishes, he accomplishes them without being asked and without ever harming others. So a good attendant, a good treasurer, a good secretary is like this, right? Has these qualities. Like the previous Karmapas, Rikpe Doji, 16th Karmapas. The previous Karmapa had an extraordinary treasurer. Anyway, the 16th Karmapa was just an extraordinary Lama. He had perfect clairvoyance and amazing qualities. Anyway, so if anyone dared to criticize the Karmapa's treasurer, saying he's a bit stingy or he's not a good worker or something, he would say, if you criticize the treasury, it's the same as criticizing me. If you say he's stingy, you're saying that I'm stingy. So no one would dare to say anything about the treasurer to the Karmapa. So a treasurer who has these qualities like the qualities of the minister here. Should be so devoted to the king or the just as a minister is fully devoted to the king, a good treasurer or good attendant is fully devoted to the teacher, fulfills their every command. So anyway, the Karmapa would not put up with any criticism of his treasurer. He would say, I think he would say, he'd praise him for being so devoted to the Karmapa and acting in his interest, and he would not hear him being criticized. Now the precious elephant with 7 appendages. 4 legs, tail, penis, and trunk. Steadfast and a joy to look at. If you go to Thailand, the elephants are the national animal. Like here, the ox is their national animal. So in Thailand, it's the elephant. And they parade the elephants around with amazing ornaments on and stuff. And elephants are very, you could say, polite, well-behaved animals, right? Occasionally you get an elephant who goes wild and then runs amok, but generally elephants are very tame, gentle, well-behaved animals. They don't harm others. They don't harm other beings. They're white like a water lily. They can fly through the air. So when Buddha was preparing to descend into the human world and enter his mother's womb, she had a dream with the auspicious sign of a white elephant, right? Who brought Buddha down into the human world, into his mother's womb. So the precious elephant, the white elephant, is an extremely auspicious album. This is also one of the reasons we include it in our mandala offerings. The elephant is victorious over the enemy's forces. It can give battle in water or dry land in the sky. So in like a swampy land in water, or on dry land like somewhere like Afghanistan, you can go around the world in a single day. It's that fast. These days even the fastest planes can't. Even the fastest planes in the world these days couldn't do that. Takes the king wherever he wants to go without being goaded and so on. The marvelous and precious horse has 8 special qualities. So these are attributes that we've been over, that we're going over. They have such extraordinary qualities, right? So if you're aware of these qualities, you bring them to mind, and then you visualize offering them in your mandala offering, then this becomes a really significant, wonderful offering, right? If you're not aware of the qualities of these things, and just like reciting them and going through the motions isn't going to be so significant. The marvelous and precious horse has 8 special qualities. It's the beautiful color of a peacock's net. So these days a lot of the younger generation are dyeing their hair all sorts of colors, right? And with this kind of, it's not just a dye, it's more like a tint, like a metallic tint, glints in the light, like that. It's perfectly built. So this is a really special quality with horses, right? Like with nomads who keep horses, then a horse that's perfectly built with perfect proportions and so on will be really highly valued and appreciated. So I like horses a lot, but and appreciate them very much, but don't really know much about them, like much formal knowledge about them. Anyway, in recent years a Western lady who knew a lot about horses did some research into this and found a very detailed explanation of the horse's body, explaining all of the different aspects and qualities of each part of its body from ear to hoof. It's 80 or 90 pages long. Amazing explanation. I forced myself to read throughout half of it, but I couldn't get to the end. Anyway. It says here it's really fast. It can go around the whole earth and back as the day breaks. So one time I got to ride an extraordinary horse. It was like perfect proportions. It was so fast, such a smooth gait, perfectly arched neck, just perfect horse, amazing horse. It was so comfortable to ride. Okay, I didn't catch this is somewhere in Tibet. I remember she was visiting somewhere, and anyway, someone had a herd of really impressive horses. One especially was just so impressive. I was really captivated by this horse. Anyway, the owner said, I'm welcome to ride it. You can absolutely, take my horse out for a ride for an hour or however long you want. And I thought, okay, nice. I'd love to ride this horse, but I thought, first of all, I just want to watch it. I just want to look at it and observe it. So I was just looking and watching it for a while. And then anyway. Then a bunch of things happened, and someone else ended up mounting the horse, and it went from sort of standstill to gallop in a second. The man rode the horse in like 3 circles, and then out into the valley. It was so fast. Its gallop was so fast. I thought, thank God I didn't get on this horse. I would have shat myself in fear. It was just too much. It has a jewel headpiece and other excellent marks. It's free of physical disease and weaknesses, all the different horse ailments. It can fly through the air. When the king is mounted on it, behaves respectfully, and it possesses the miraculous power of magical manifestation. So this is the precious horse, the supreme precious steed. The precious general also has 8 special qualities, which are similar to the qualities of the precious minister. He's knowledgeable, clear-minded, a good analyst. So one needs to be... He also has courage and skill. It's not enough just to have courage, it's also not enough just to have knowledge and wisdom. You need to have knowledge, but also courage. These make the perfect pair. He has rejected unvirtuous conduct. These days, a lot of countries, their governments show a lot of disrespect and disdain for other countries. The actions of a lot of countries' governments these days are just really despicable. The disrespect and disdain they show for other countries. Anyway, I need to be careful about what I say. I wonder sometimes if I'm going to be denied visas for certain countries, if these countries hear what I say about them. For his own part, he's rejected unvirtuous conduct, and with respect to others, he performs his duties correctly. So not being attached to flattery and praise. He's not attached to other people's superficial flattery and praise. He cannot be won over by praise. So you could say he has integrity. So one time Kendra Mishi was invited somewhere. So a story. One time Kendra Mishi was invited somewhere. Anyway, he was like he was invited into someone's house. They were really hospitable. They really kind of praised him, served him, tea and food, and were very gracious. Anyway, then when Kendra Mishi left their house, was no longer in their company, then he criticized that householder a lot, saying, it's this fault, that fault. And then whoever was with him said, should you really be criticizing him like that? He just invited you to his house. He was so gracious. Kendra Mishi replied, talking about people behind their backs. It's no harm to them because they don't hear it, and very satisfying for oneself. That's a kind of a joke. Now, so these therefore are the 7 precious attributes of royalty. We offer these in our mandala offering. Now we have the excellent treasure vase and so on. Next comes the outstanding offering that fills the Buddhas with untainted pleasure and bliss, and it's common to all yogas, all practices. So the yoga tantras, common to all yoga tantras. So there are some texts, maybe a scripture by Sajin Ngondro, who explains the goddesses according to the level of the Kriya and Upa tantras, and then they can be explained at the level of the Anuttara Yoga tantras and so on. Different perspectives. So these 8 goddesses are the Lady of Charm. White, standing with her diamond-fisted hands on her hips. So the Lady of Grace and Charm. The Lady of Garlands, the Lady of Song. In the Vajrasattva Sadhana of Jujunrimshi, all of these 8 offering goddesses are just mentioned and described one by one, with a lot of different qualities. Like when it says here, performs songs and melodies with the 7 tones and other musical devices, it refers to there's different musical terms describing just different aspects of the vocal tones, and I guess we have an equivalent in Western music. Like in traditional Indian music, there's a kind of fundamental scales, I guess you could say, which almost like once you've learned in the same way that once you've learned the alphabet, you have the foundation for all reading and writing. Once you've learned these basic scales, you have the basis for all music, playing and singing both, like that. So This was about the 7 tones mentioned here. As our end note, as our footnote says, these are the 7 notes of the Indian musical scale, which people train in as like a fundament of classical Indian music training. The Lady of Dance is multicolored, performing many different dance steps. The Lady of Flowers is white, a beautiful lady holding bunches of flowers in her hands. Then, likewise, we have the Lady of Incense bearing incense, the Lady of Lamps, the Lady of Perfume. But there are two different perspectives or ways to understanding these 8 offering goddesses. So, the 8 offering goddesses in a mundane sense, where they are offering goddesses holding up these different things. But from the super mundane perspective, these 8 offering goddesses are the 8 female bodhisattvas. In that case, they're called like a Vajra, Lady of Charm, Vajra, Lady of Garlands, and so on. And they are understood. So that when the word Vajra is added to their names, it indicates that they are understood as the radiance of the natural state, the manifestation of the inseparability of great purity and equality. They are actually enlightened beings, figures in the mandala of 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. So you should be aware that there are 2 different perspectives. We could say 2 different versions or presentations. 2 different presentations, we could say, of these 8 offering goddesses. The common and the uncommon presentation. All 8 appear supple, lissome, sinuous, graceful, and so on. So looking at the Lady of Lamps to backtrack, she's pink. And she holds up a jeweled lamp as bright and radiant as the sun and moon. An offering lamp as bright and radiant as that. Then we have the Lady of Perfume, who is green and uses a conch shell to sprinkle pure water, mixed with camphor and so on. So sprinkling up an offering. So all of these 8 goddesses have these wonderful qualities of being supple, graceful, beautiful, smiling, bewitching, and so on. And they're all bedecked with all kinds of beautiful silks and jewel ornaments, silken garments and jewel ornaments. In addition to these, in the sky above the eastern continent is the mandala of the sun, its basic constituent made from the precious stone fire crystal, encircled by a golden aura. It is 51 leagues across. In the sky above the western continent is the disk of the moon. So again, when it comes to the 4 continents, the sun and moon and so on, mention of all of these different aspects of the universe, there are also 2 presentations or 2 levels of these. The mundane level and the super-mundane level. You could say the common level and the uncommon divine level. So there are these aspects to everything, right? Relative and ultimate, mundane and super-mundane. So as we saw with the 8 offering goddesses, on the mundane level they are these 8 offering goddesses just described. On the super mundane level, the level of the ultimate truth of purity from the level of the inseparability of purity and equality, then they are the female bodhisattvas, enlightened beings. And in that context they're called Vajra, Lady of Charm, Vajra, Lady of Garlands, and so on. So the same goes with all of these things. so the 5 aggregates. And then impure context with impure perception, we see them as ordinary, the ordinary impure aggregates of form and so on. And the pure context, they are seen as for what they are. They are seen as the 5 male Buddhas. So it's very important that we have this understanding when we talk about purity. That which is pure, we're not talking about something separate from what we already experience. We're not talking about some other phenomena. If you were to think that, you would be mistaken. So the very same phenomena perceived either in an impure, incorrect way or in a pure way, according to their real nature. So there are these 2 different ways of perceiving all phenomena, the impure way and the pure way. Then we also have the precious vase. In Generation Says practices, often we have the vase recitation, where the mandala is visualized inside a vase, which is described, for instance, in some liturgies as being externally, outwardly this is a vase, internally this is a celestial palace. Okay, so now we're on page 226, the top of Mount Meru has the following layout. In the middle of the city, lovely to behold, and so on. There are 4 pleasure groves, and so on. So when you enter a really beautiful garden, like a botanical garden, beautifully manicured, like some of these beautiful gardens you see in Taiwan or in the West, like 9 or 10 square kilometers, beautifully manicured, absolutely pristine, or like Central Park in New York. We could say these are pleasure groves, and filled with wild animals like deer and so on, with ponds and lakes. So we do not have such pleasure groves in Nepal, do we? They recently tried to create some kind of garden on the in the Pashupatinath compound, but it's filthy. It's filled with dog shit and rubbish. It's full of the grove of many kinds of chariots and so on, so forest of many kinds of chariots, beautiful, excellent trees. And it says here then, to the northeast is the all-gathering place, and in front of it the stone slab Amolika, which is, you could say, a fortune-reading stone. You can look into it, and on the face of the stone you can see into the future, the fortune of the gods and different types of beings. You can sort of read people's karma in this stone. To the southwest is the assembly place, so you could say like the living room. Assembly place is a good translation, where the gods hear the excellent law. Assembly ground or assembly place or gathering hall, where the gods hear the excellent law. Above these, one above the other in the sky and supported by clouds of jewels, are the heaven free of conflict. The heaven free of conflict the joyous realm, which is Maitreya, Regent Maitreya's realm, and so on. These god realms are enumerated in Ornament of the Mahayana Sutras, Treasury of Abhidhamma, and so on. We don't need to go through all of them here. They're mentioned by name and described one by one in Treasury of Abhidhamma. Then interspersed between these different levels are the 8 auspicious symbols of the precious umbrella and so on. The precious umbrella which shelters one from heat, from searing heat, the auspicious golden fish, the wish-granting vase, and so on. There is stories. There is history to each of these 8 auspicious symbols, like the spiraling white conch shell, which was first offered by Indra and Brahma to Buddha when they requested him to turn the wheel of Dharma. And in Pemalund Ogyata's Chuji severance text, he goes through all of these one by one, and in very elaborate long life ceremonies, then each of these symbols, each of these things is offered one by one with a mention of its history and symbolic significance. Likewise, we have the 8 auspicious objects, mirror, vermilion powder, and so on. So these are chanted, mentioned in liturgies. And as I said, they're often mentioned in formal offerings in ceremonies where people make mandala offerings or long life offerings. Like most days we've had people come up and make mandala offerings at the beginning of the session, and then one of the lamas here, Pema Dobjen, stands up and recites a speech, so to speak, which reads out the offering in very majestic language, often mentioning these auspicious symbols and so on as part of the offering. Ending with an aspiration. May this be so, may this be so. It's very important for those who have this role of reciting these speeches and aspirations aloud. It's very important they're recited clearly so that everyone can actually understand them, understand what is being said. This is really important, more important than perhaps the language being very poetic. It needs to be recited clearly. When it comes to the monastic Sangha, then it is vital that there is harmony and discipline in the monastic Sangha. If there is disharmony or if there is corruption of discipline, of vows, then that will spoil, just like one drop of spoiled milk spoils a whole vat of milk. Disharmony in the Sangha or a few people's corrupted vows, this will poison the entire Sangha, the entire community. So please keep these points in mind. These are so important for the Sangha, for the health and continuity of the Sangha. So it's good to keep these points in mind. It's important to keep these points in mind and apply them as best we can, right? Likewise with, for instance, we spent several hours today going through the mandala offering, explaining the different points. So if you can actually keep these points in mind when you come to practice your mandala offerings, or even at the beginning of, when we recite mandala offering at the beginning of teaching sessions, bring these points to mind. Otherwise, if you sit here, listen to the explanations, but then don't actually apply your understanding and this knowledge, to the mandala offering, when you actually practice mandala offering, then all you're doing is just making your bum sore and warming up the ground, and really not accomplishing anything more than that. So the same goes with maintaining harmony in the sangha. All these things, we should apply all of these points, small and big both, to the best of our capacity. Then something meaningful will come from our efforts, from gathering here and spending this time and energy. So, the 7 semi-precious articles, precious bedclothes and so on, thrones, cushions. Six excellent medicines, 6 excellent medicinal substances. I won't try and go list them. There are some doctors here, and they'll notice if I make a mistake. But the doctors will know these. And anyway, they're mentioned in the text, more a detailed text. Substances associated with taking the essence, elixir-like substances, and so on. Substances that prolong life, swords, books, vinas, symbols, and other articles that promote wisdom and fame. In the sutras, they describe these so beautifully. Just this sword, for instance. In the past, Shariputra, Buddha's disciple, he had such great wisdom. So Shariputra was the student with supreme wisdom. Moggallana was the student with supreme miraculous powers. And there are stories of how his great intelligence came from making swords, sharpening swords in his past lives. In the sutras, Buddha talks about the karmic causes for Shariputra's wisdom in this way. So in the sutras we find this and so many other accounts where Buddha actually explains the karmic causes of different disciples' qualities, like a beautiful voice, great insight, and so on. The deeds in past lives that they came from. There's so much detail there. Rainbow lights and rains of flowers, pools of scented water, lotus groves, emanated birds and deer, and so on. The 5 sense delights of forms, sounds, and the like. Great numbers of sons and daughters of the gods as venerating attendants. Like waiters, people offering service, and so on. All the things that contribute to the glory, riches, and happiness of gods and humans with nothing lacking, filling the universe to overflowing. And just as you offer one such universe, in the same way you should offer the infinite universes in the 10 directions, completely filled with every kind of special offering. In short, offer infinite clouds of offerings. Just like those manifested and displayed in the life stories of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas on the great levels through the power of their aspirations and prayers. Offering all with a pure aspiration to offer without interruption for as long as cyclic existence endures. So we should make vast mandala offerings, extensive mandala offerings like the 37-point mandala offering. Endless, limitless, in terms of the offerings, in terms of the objects of the offerings, and so on. So now we've finished this 6th subsection, now we come to the 7th, considering one's aim in making such an offering. Master Ashwagosha says, so considering one's aim or what the purpose or aim for making such offerings, to this end, about this Ashwagosha says, Ashwagosha was previously a non-Buddhist. He got into a debate with some Buddhists and he lost. He debated with Aryadeva, the great Buddhist master, then he lost. And the condition of the debate was, if whoever loses has to convert to the other's religion, right? So Ashwagosha lost, and then he didn't agree to the terms of the debate, so he was locked up. He was locked up in a library. And after some time he got so fed up, he started reading all the texts, just pulling them down from the shelves and flicking through the pages. He had they were Buddhist scriptures, he had no respect for Buddhist teachings, but he had nothing to do, so he just started opening the scriptures up and flinging the pages around, sort of flicking through them. And as the hours went past, anyway, at some point he came across a quotation. He caught sight of his own name on the page. And this was actually Buddha's prophecy, saying in the future there will appear a non-Buddhist called Ashwagosha. He will enter debate with a Buddhist scholar. And then this and that will happen, and then he'll convert to Buddhism, become a great scholar, and so on. And the prophecy was so pertinent, so accurate. Ashwagosha was overcome, and just as Buddha foretold, he then became Buddhist, became a great scholar, and left a great legacy. So this Master Ashwagosha says, all these sources of good that I've accomplished I dedicate as the cause of the state beyond the world, and so on, without any thoughts related to cyclic existence or hopes. Unless our meritorious actions are backed by the skillful means of compassion and the wisdom of emptiness, they'll merely become causes of cyclic existence, resulting in cyclic existence. So this means that all the meritorious actions need to be embraced with the threefold excellence: excellent preparation of bodhicitta, excellent main part beyond concepts, excellent conclusion of dedication. Otherwise they will remain mundane actions that just perpetuate samsara. So there's a lot of debate in the scriptures, like in the Mipa Rinpoche's, I think Mipa Rinpoche's record of Mipa Rinpoche's debate and dialogue with Parirabsa. But anyway, the point is about the excellent main part free of concepts. One needs to be free of attachment. So it's taught that first one should habituate oneself to the idea of emptiness. One should remedy one's clinging by meditating on emptiness, familiarizing oneself with this idea of emptiness. And then after that, we need to take a step further and cut through all attachment to emptiness itself. So at the moment, the outset, we're so fixated on existence. We have this fixation and reification. So to remedy that, it's good to meditate on the opposite extreme, non-existence. Instead of existence, non-existence. that is actually skillful, helpful as a remedy. But then, in the end, we need to let go of even attachment to non-existence, attachment to emptiness, the idea of emptiness itself. So as Miparamjisa is speaking, emptiness meditate on great emptiness beyond all constructs. So that quotation, the quote we have here from the Way of the Bodhisattva, and several other quotations from which is mentioned, they all speak to this, the importance of cutting through attachment, undoing attachment. When we do not have in mind any characterizing thoughts, nor even think of emptiness, which is absence of characteristics, but reign without remaining in the state of emptiness, the ultimate nature that transcends both things, the accumulation of merit becomes perfectly pure. And we can also recall the story of the magician Bhadra, that story that I told in previous days. So, to rest in this way, as explained here, without any characterizing thoughts, in the absence of characteristics, the state of emptiness, this is the genuine cause for attaining the Dhammakaya. So, by applying the reasonings taught in the middle way, the reasonings like the great Vajra stake and so on, these 5 great Madhyamaka reasonings, we should come to arrive at certainty in the fact that phenomena do not exist. They lack natural existence. They are all unreal, no more than illusions and dreams. So we should understand that the appearance of phenomena, like the appearance of a pillar with certain characteristics and function, this is the relative. The fact that this pillar in essence is empty, that is the ultimate. So all training on the relative level is the accumulation of merit. Training on the ultimate level is the accumulation of wisdom. So, the natural state beyond constructs, beyond the 8 constructs of arising and cessation and so on, is enumerated in the opening homage to Nagarjuna's root stanzas of the middle way. This is what we mean by simplicity or freedom from constructs, or it's translated often as freedom from complexity or concepts. This is what we're talking about. Training in that state, realizing that state, that is the accumulation of wisdom. The Vajrayana is rich with skillful means. It said, though the intent is the same, the Vajrayana is superior in being intended for those of superior faculty, being rich in skillful means, and involving little hardship. So the skillful means of the Vajrayana give us ways to unsurpassable methods for accumulating extraordinary amounts of merit in a short time, purifying great obscurations very quickly. All of the different aspects of the Vajrayana path are skillful means for traversing the path very swiftly and easily. So we should recognize this. For instance, Lama dances and different aspects of Vajrayana ritual, they are all these profound skillful means. Profound, skillful means we don't perform Lama dances just as a show or just as entertainment. So like that, so section 8, the unique benefits. From the point of view of actually making the offering and so on, even if we make a materially small mandala offering, our special visualization and attitude serve as skillful means to increase it. So the visualization and attitude that are taught in the Vajrayana as skillful methods. So what I just was saying about the Vajrayana skillful means relates to this. The power of the offering is increased by applying these skillful methods and means, and in this way we gain infinite merit. So I might not have a lot of qualities and knowledge myself, but I do really try my best, and I do not look down on you guys. Every day I spend about 2 hours preparing for the teaching, so I really do try my best out of respect and esteem for all of you. So here we have a quotation from the Mandala Sutra that explains how the 6 paramitas are practiced and complete within the practice of mandala offering. I went through this earlier today, right? As I said, I feel sure this is also explained in Bhadraramshi's The Words of My Perfect Teacher. But as it says here, generosity in adding cow's dung and urine, discipline in cleaning, patience in removing insects, and so on. For those who do this practice physically, a golden complexion will be theirs. When we say a golden complexion, we don't mean actually yellow, right? Like when it said Buddha is the color of refined gold. We're not actually saying like he's yellow like someone with jaundice. Someone rather that he has a golden complexion, like a golden radiance. Maybe we could say like an olive complexion. So when we say like gold, there are a lot of different degrees of gold, different types of gold, qualities of gold. And if you're like, there's this artificial gold that they make in Japan. I think it's like mechanically applied. To me, it looks just the same as real gold, but for artists who kind of have a much more nuanced appreciation of gold, they say, oh, it's nothing like real gold. So it just shows, there are degrees and a lot of different degrees and qualities of anything, like including gold. As a result of the merit of making mandala offerings in this way, one will gain a golden complexion, be free of sickness, have an abundance of precious stones and gold, so one will attain wealth. One will be wealthy. But that said, if you're born as someone as like Elon Musk, big danger, huh? So, no point in not much benefit in being born as the son of the son or daughter of someone like Elon Musk, because he's in a risky position, right? If Trump is not elected in the future or gets kicked out or something, then, well, Elon Musk will bear the consequences, and so would his potential children. But, to be the son or daughter of, say, someone like Bill Gates, that would be alright, eh? And this is, we're talking about the karmic results of the merit of mandala offering. One will become wealthy because merit is the source of wealth. So, in the very best of households they'll be born. So in connection with that, we mentioned being reborn as in the households of, say, Bill Gates or Elon Musk, or someone like that, in royal or Buddhist families. So very positive and helpful to be born in a Buddhist family. From the merit of offering the 4 continents, one will pacify every one of the 4 demons. Practice it therefore with diligence. So now we just read through the quotation by Kamalashila about the merit, the result of the merit of mandala offerings. So we'll keep going a bit because we haven't yet got through our quota of pages for the day. So this chapter on gathering the accumulations through the mandala offering began with a twofold division. General points to be understood, and then particular points on the mandala practice. Points of training in this case. So we've covered the first. Now come to the second. It means the practical how to perform the mandala offering when doing this specific Ngondro. So prepare the accomplished mandala and so on. Sprinkle it, arrange upon it 5 piles. So this is, we're talking about the accomplished mandala, the shrine mandala, right, that we prepare at the beginning of the session and beginning of the practice and place up on the shrine as a support for your mandala offering. It's very important that this mandala is clean, neat. So on upon a clean, polished mandala, you arrange 5 piles, 1 in the center, 1 in each of the 4 directions. These days up in Humna, everyone is very wealthy these days. People have become much wealthier than they used to be. So their shrine rooms are very beautiful, full of handsome supports. And this is wonderful, something to be rejoiced in. This is a real source of merit. So those of you the wealthier of you here, you can accumulate a lot of merit by inviting, meaning buying, or commissioning supports for body, speech and mind, namely statues, scriptures, stupas, the Prajnaparamita scriptures and so on. Arrange these on the shrine in your house. Then you have an object of prostration, offering, worship in your own house. And that's a source of great merit. So these days, people are making very beautiful shrines in their houses and commissioning statues and so on for their home shrines. This is wonderful, but I think also that there should be a word of caution here. It's wonderful to do this if you have the means, but you shouldn't go out of your means. Like, there's no need to spend more than you can afford on these things. If you have the money to commission beautiful statues and so on, then by all means do that. That's a source of great merit. But if you don't have the means, then don't overspend. There's no need to overspend and put yourself in a difficult situation. There are so many other ways to accumulate merit. And it's so important that people understand this, that we're all clear on this. Otherwise, people will end up overspending, putting themselves in a difficult situation because they feel obliged to have a handsome shrine in their house and statues and so on. They feel like, oh, if I'm a Buddhist, a sincere Buddhist, then I have to have these things, I have to buy these things, I have to make expensive offerings on the 10th and 25th and so on. Or maybe they're doing it out of competition, with their neighbors and what have you, to impress others. Anyway, people then can end up getting dispirited and feeling like, to be a Buddhist actually is a very expensive thing. It costs a lot of money to be a Buddhist and a practicing Buddhist. And then the Christian missionaries come along and buy their faith by offering them some financial aid and some charity, big checks and what have you. And then they convert to Christianity or what have you. They sell their faith. So that's important. It's also important if you do buy statues and so on and so forth. If you do this sort of thing, you need to do it sincerely, right? Not just as a show to prove yourself to your neighbors or something. That won't benefit you. It also won't benefit the deceased, for instance, if you're making offerings for the deceased. So it said that we should accumulate merit for the benefit of the deceased, accumulate merit for the deceased and dedicate the merit to for their positive rebirth, and that can really help. But that doesn't mean accumulate merit for the deceased doesn't necessarily involve spending lots of money. It involves sincere motivation, sincere offering, and genuine aspiration and dedication. Just offering one single butter lamp for the deceased, purely, with a pure motivation and making a pure aspiration, that can benefit the deceased enormously. On the other hand, spending like thousands and thousands buying a statue, if you don't do it sincerely and dedicate it with a pure aspiration, that's not guaranteed to help your deceased relative. So this is really important to understand. So clarification of the points of the training in this case, you prepare the accomplished mandala in this way, if you can. So if you can afford it, if you can get a second mandala plate, you can afford it without too much difficulty, then by all means prepare it in this way. But if you can't acquire it, if it's beyond your means, then it's not a problem. Then you can just visualize the objects of offering, the refuge tree in front of you. So this should act as the support for your concentration, representing the field of accumulation, which you should visualize as in the refuge practice. And to do this, we recite in the Ngondro liturgy. The mandala is a delightful pure Buddha field in its center and so on. So we can read quite quickly through the next few paragraphs. There's no need to add too much explanation. As it says here, if you don't have an accomplished mandala, you may simply visualize the object of offering in the sky in front of you. So I said that already, right? By 1,000 million to make what we call the third order universal system of a billion worlds. There are different ways of counting in Tibetan. It doesn't really translate into English. So in English we have like 100,000, 100,000, a million, a billion, a trillion. And the Tibetan counting goes in a slightly different way. And actually they have, like we have a million, billion, trillion, they have likewise much higher numbers actually. They have much higher, greater measures. Anyway, this was just about the different ways of counting. The point is we visualize a third order universal system of a billion worlds. You visualize offering countless universes filled with clouds of offerings in the manner of Samantabhadra. Inwardly, so that's the outer mandala offering. Inwardly offer your own body. So there is some things to say about this. So in the Ngondro, the liturgy explicitly describes that in offering the aggregates of one's body and so on. The Ngondro liturgy here doesn't explicitly mention the inner mandala offering of the body, but still we bring it to mind and offer it as described here. Offer your own body, comprising the 5 aggregates, the 5 constituents, and so on. Visualize your body as the source of everything precious, comprising the universe and its contents. Your skin as the golden ground, your spine is Mount Meru, and so on and so forth. So when we offer our body, we offer it, we just imagine offering it, right? We don't actually literally offer it. But in the past, masters, practitioners did actually literally offer their body. So like when Naropa was following his guru Tilopa, undergoing his dozen or more great hardships, Tilopa said, "You must make a mandala offering." I said, "Okay." Came to make the mandala offering, but there was no water in the area. And Naropa said, "But Master, there's no water." And Tilopa replied, what is your body for? What do you think your body is for? And Naropa thought, oh, he's saying I need to offer my body, of course. So he's cut his veins and used his blood in place of water to clean the mandala plate. And so on. So he actually hacked into his own body to make a mandala offering. Eventually he passed out. Naropa passed out from the pain and blood loss and everything. And when he woke up, Tilopa took his shoe off, slapped him on the cheek very hard with his sandal and said, "You still don't get it? You still don't get it?" And that moment, Naropa got it. There are 2 different versions of this story. However, there's another story that says, another account of Naropa's life story that says Tilopa actually sent Naropa down to the river to get water, and when he came back, he sent him off to get something, and when he came back, he slapped him. And it was then when the transmission took place. But it seems there are different accounts. I imagine both of them are true. There's also the story of the Bodhisattva ever weeping, who in his search of the Prajnaparamita teachings, he underwent so many trials. He traveled miles and miles, but underwent so many trials. For 12 years, he sought out the teachings. Eventually, he came before Bodhisattva Chobak, who had the Prajnaparamita teachings, was able to give them to him. So he had finally met the master, but the master was in samadhi in retreat. And so, for years, he stayed by this master's side, making constant prostrations and circumambulations for 12 years, aspiring to receive the teachings. Finally, Bodhisattva Chobak arose from his meditation. It was announced that he was going to be coming out of his retreat. And this Bodhisattva ever weeping was so thrilled. Finally, the time had come. He was going to be able to receive this teaching, so he started to prepare the area and trying to settle the dust in the area to make the air pure and the whole area pure and clean for the teacher. But no matter how much water he sprinkled on the ground, the Maragara Bongcho was interfering and immediately made it evaporate. So dust kept filling the air and sullying the teacher's seat and so on. Eventually, the Bodhisattva just split his own veins open and used his own blood to settle the dust. And the Bodhisattva, the Mara Garavangcha, was overwhelmed by his act of devotion and fled. And anyway, this is an extraordinary story, the story of Bodhisattva ever weeping, and how he offered his body up in this way to receive the Prajnaparamita teachings. Then we have on the secret level, the offering of Rigpa itself, taking the 4 visions of the great perfection, arranging them as a mandala offering and offering them up. So this is the offering of awareness, natural awareness, and its display. The mandala offering of the great perfection. In short, so now page 231, offer this spontaneously accomplished mandala, the secret mandala, the absolute expanse, appearing as the display, unobstructed in any way, the spontaneous primal wisdom, unchanging great bliss, imagining it all like the offering miraculously emanated by the Bodhisattva Gagana Ganja through the power of prayer. It's a beautiful story. Here, how the Bodhisattva Namgyal Nyingpo, through the power of his prayer, multiplied his offerings exponentially. And the Bodhisattva summoned the Vajras. This is where our Zangchen Monam, King of Aspiration prayers, comes from, right? So, with this in mind, begin by offering the detailed 37 element mandala as many times as you can. So when you are accumulating the mandala offering in your Ngondro practice, you should begin the session by making the 37 mandala offering once. Then continue with just the 7 pile arrangement. So it's the 7 pile of mandala offering that you accumulate. What are the 7 piles? Mount Meru, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. Altogether they make 7, right? You make this 7 pile mandala offering while earnestly making the offering and reciting the prayer, the following prayer, the glorious infinite array, and so on, as many times as you can. So it's taught that while accumulating the mandala offering, even when your arm starts to ache from holding up the mandala plate, you should endure that pain, endure that discomfort. This is part of the practice, enduring discomfort, enduring physical pain. So it said that unless you're sort of seriously unwell, literally physically unable to hold up the plate, well, in that case you can rest it on the table and make the offering in that way. But otherwise you will need to endure the pain and discomfort. That is how we accumulate merit. That's how we accumulate obscurations. We're actually putting in some effort, right? Putting in some sweat. Otherwise, we'll be like those people at Bodh Gaya who accumulate their prostrations on prostration boards that are raised up on many bricks. It's like they don't even have to break into a sweat. Not much merit and purification will come from that. So as you do so, pray that you and all other beings may accumulate and purify. At the end, consider that light radiates from the accomplished mandala, so light radiates down from the field of accumulation in front of you, touches you and all beings, purifies your obscurations. You think now our obscurations are purified, accumulation of merit and wisdom is completely complete. The deities then melt into light. They dissolve into you, and you rest in evenness for a while, free of concepts of subject, object, and action. Then you dedicate the merit. As a result of these positive actions, may all beings and so on. So we'll leave it here for today, and we'll finish this section tomorrow. Now we dedicate the merit.
Parjitduli Gervi Tambarva Savan the Sun Gombo Jambi Yang Tuji Gonji Tugi Dagi Yingla Yurdu Chine Getching Love Ji Chotung Kandu Nevi Chotu